Hey, you're back at the Faculty Factory Podcast, and I'm Kim Skorupski at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston, Texas. Come on down and visit this glorious island. I'm looking at a colleague and friend who's now can call him a frequent flyer here on the Faculty Factory Podcast, Dr. Oscar Skip Brown. Hi, Skip.
How's it going?
It's going great, especially now that I see you. And I'm especially looking forward to this conversation today because the last time you were on the podcast, you talked about the definitive guide to a fulfilling retirement journey. Dr. Skip Brown is here to tell us about the hard knock road, things not to do. We always talk about this podcast, things to do, to do, to do, to do, to do. How about things we shouldn't do? So, Skip, what kinds of things shouldn't we do? And let us learn from your hard knocks.
It's really a mixture of things to do, but things not to do. And it may vary a little bit from one of us to the next as we encounter certain things that we either plan on or don't. This is going to focus, or at least my thoughts, center around the ability to occupy time in a way that's good for you, because it's pretty clear that almost anyone who reads any information about what goes on after career, you've got to occupy your mind, and that's really an exciting opportunity because you get to pick it. You don't have to go do some literature review that on a topic that you may not particularly love. You can do whatever you want on whatever you like, and commit as little or as much time as you feel appropriate. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about how to go about doing that, because I've kind of been engaged in that now about 5 years, and I have got a few things that I think are important, and they kind of come from watching colleagues, watching family as well, because a lot of my family members I have that are in other professions, a couple of attorneys. I have an oral surgeon cousin that I'm close with, and I'm watching them navigate either the early parts or mid parts of retirement as well. As you near that point where you're, okay, I'm going to be done in 6 months or whatever, whatever your date is you've picked. Most of us were trained to be people who carefully thought out, planned out, developed goals. We were all about that. And rarely were we impromptu unless we were in a truly unanticipated situation. Well, this is hardly something that we could call unanticipated. So there's a lot of planning that goes into that final decision to make yourself an after career faculty person.
Mm-hmm.
So I would challenge you to spend some time in reflection. And I mean that. I think meditative, reflective, contemplative thinking is probably an art that most of us are not really very good at, because we've always had a focus elsewhere, on patients, on our responsibilities in administration or operations and practice management. That really didn't focus on us. So it's time to kind of take that laser and turn it around a little bit. What are my likes and dislikes? What skills do I want to retain? What are things I want to learn that I don't really know very much about right now? Have I always had a desire to do X, Y, and Z, fill in the blank, and never had the time and never had the inclination? And how feasible is doing that? We dose it with a little bit of reality, but we come up with a list of things. And I'll just share with you, when I sort of had that discussion with myself, I decided to kind of characterize all of it into things I want to keep doing that I may be reasonably adept at because they give me a lot of satisfaction. And then I wanted to challenge myself in a way by picking up some new skills. And I wanted to be a rookie. I wanted to be ignorant and needing great instruction and being led around a little bit and make a few mistakes because I learned really well that way. So I wanted to build skill sets while retaining the ones that I like that I know is are places I can go for a lot of self-assurance. And then I wanted to try to, meld that into, gosh, what is it I've always wanted to do that I never had time for? And that was an easy answer for me. I also think you need to sort of be realistic about your time. I decided that my new skill was to learn Morse code and become an amateur radio operator and do a thing called parks on the air and portable antennas and how they work. I don't know anything about that. And it was fun, and I did that, and over a period of about a year and a half, got through all the different levels, started teaching the class, and administering the exam for the FCC. So I've kind of, you know, had a lot of fun doing that. My wife and I acquired an RV and decided to get into that. I've become a very superficial diesel mechanic a little bit, and that's fun. So I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. Um, so a couple of new skills come along. So as you get into these new things, and there are others that I've undertaken, um, but as you get into them, be mindful of the 90-10 rule. 90% of the work gets done by 10% of the people.
Mm-hmm.
So you can become much more busy than you really want to be if you're willing to donate time and some of your skills that you have. Because if you may not know it, but you're probably one of the top 2 or 3% of people who are as organized as you are, just because of what you've done.
Uh-huh.
And so you sort of stand out in a given situation as someone who knows how to attack a problem and kind of work through it. And so I would just caution you because you want to maintain the freedom of being able to pick and choose a little bit about time. That if you turn around and find yourself doing all the work for a given organization or organizations, you're going to look yourself in the mirror and go, "Good grief, I'm as busy now as I
Mm.
was when I was working full time."
Mm.
And I don't think that's a good thing because I think it develops that I don't want to do this, but I have to. I committed to do it. That necessity of commitment, and you really need to control that. It's a time to learn that skill. So I think you can be much more productive if you
Mhm.
think along those lines and do that. But I believe it's a great time to really take on a lot of new things, but preserve the things you know well
Uh-huh.
in your endeavors. Please do that.
Mhm. Skip, this is, great guidance, and I'm thinking about someone I recently had a conversation with who was really struggling with maintaining relevance. This struggle of how do I give up my lab, my research, my fellows, my trainees? That's all I am. That's gotten me this far.
Mhm.
And now you're suggesting I give all that up? So you talked about things to do, what do I wanna keep doing? What will be my new skills? What have I always wanted to do? What about letting go of things.
You need to talk to my wife about that part. She probably has a different perspective. Mine's a little on the rosy side, probably. But there is I kind of, not because I was a great planner, but because I did a little bit of a leap of faith about 2010. And what I did was I had been in a group practice that I was one of the founding members of in 1978. And we built that from four of us to about 150 docs and about 500 employees by 2010. And then the opportunity came along to consider coming back to the Department of Pediatrics, which is where I had trained, um, and taking on a position there. I remember the conversation really well. And I thought, how would you like to come back to the department? I went, nope, I'm good. Have a good time, and I'll talk to you at the next meeting. But it began to intrigue me because I thought, well, I really like to teach, and it's always kind of a competition in a private environment to teach a little bit and be as productive as you need to be. In 2010, I decided to accept that offer and came back down to Galveston, closed my practice up in North Texas, and had my separation anxiety over the next year and gradually was able to work through it. And there is some. I mean, you don't just walk away from a career that you put that much effort into, and there's got to be a twinge. I mean, or you're heartless. So there was, and I stay and still do stay in very close contact with many people that I had close relationships with. And you need to expect there's going to be an adjustment. And if you sit there and wait for some great idea to hit you in the head of how to manage this, that's not good planning
Mm.
because that doesn't happen.
Mhm.
You sort of have to take this bull by the horns and come up with an idea of how we're going to navigate this period after career and get me to a place where I can be who I am,
Yeah.
maybe learn to be something I'm not,
Mhm.
but still have a good time in the journey. And I don't think there's anything wrong. No, in fact, I know there's nothing wrong. I know it's imperative that you put a little time into reflecting about where you want to see yourself. And literally, it sounds trite, but golly, ask the question, what do I want to do 3 years from now?
Mhm.
And, let's set a couple of goals that are reasonable and start down the pathway. The nice thing about these goals, they're not like
And
career critical, you
yeah,
know,
they can
and they
change.
can be modified
Right.
pretty easily if they become something that's a whole mouthful that you really didn't anticipate
Mhm.
and didn't think through. They're just not career critical, so they
Yeah.
can be modified, and you can enjoy them more. So
So, what you said earlier, Skip, made me think about just such a truth in these neural pathways that we in this academic health world carve so deeply. And that is this uh, responsibility to the annual review, to peer review in scholarship, to peer review of our grants, to patient feedback, to learner feedback, to climbing the career ladder and careerism, and going and giving talks nationally, internationally, all those milestones that we hold ourselves to the accountability that
yeah,
we're meeting some threshold of achievement, and it's always
right.
someone is assessing us, grading us.
But that changes. Now you're going to go to work for the most insightful boss you've ever had about who you are. That's called you. So the mirror doesn't lie too often. You may think it is, but you're not going to dodge too much by looking in the mirror and asking questions. So you're going to be working for the person that knows you best,
Mm,
and that's going to be different because it changes a whole lot about choices, and it changes about assessments. You know, your annual review will be a real different ball game.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's so what not to do. So a hard knock road or what not to do, I think is going through the career and just expecting or maybe not expecting anything. Just not
Well,
not anticipating or thinking, as you're saying, reflecting and preparing, just like our whole careers, we're always doing to prepare for the next stage. And so
right.
by not recognizing or acknowledging that this too shall end, I will get to a point in my career where I either want to, my partner wants me to, my family circumstances, my health, my leadership, the train, something will force a change and a
Yeah,
choice. And I
exactly.
should start noodling around what those options could be and not be afraid because as you said, it's not going to be etched in stone. I'm not going to say, I, Kim Skorupski, hereby commit to doing this and that after full-time employment. And not someone's not going to come knocking on my door and hold me to that
Yeah.
and not give me a raise if I didn't do what I said I was
No,
going to do. I could change
no.
my
I
mind.
mean, and there are, Kim, when you've got 30 years of work ahead of you, it's hard to see the seasons, you know? And when you get toward after that time and you get into the later part of life, the seasons become very obvious. And you may say, well, I'm going to, like me in the RV thing. Well, I'm doing that. Good. I'm still doing it. How much longer am I going to do that? I don't know. As long as it's kind of fun and enjoyable and, and I'm fit to do that, then I'll keep doing it. But you have to be honest with yourself about your capabilities and or have someone who you trust who's honest with you, and so the seasons are going to move a little differently, but that doesn't mean that you can't take advantage of new things. You just have a little shorter time frame to accomplish, and maybe you won't become a full-time RVer traveling across the country, but you don't have to really have a lot of fun doing that. You just don't have to. To me, that looks like a lot of work. And and when I see some of those people, I think, gosh, I don't know how you could do that. Um, I love traveling, but I don't think I like it that much. So
Yeah.
it's okay.
So that you just said a couple of really great things, Dr. Brown. And this last one was, we're so accustomed to overachieving and
Yeah.
being excellent and being perfectionists. So I think another maybe not warning, but something to be watchful of or mindful of is our tendency or our predisposition or expectation that we have to be the experts in pickleball or
Yeah.
mahjong or whatever it's going to be. And like you just said, relax. You're not
I
gonna
I
you don't have
I uh,
to be the best. Just enjoy it.
I
Don't
teach a
be number
class.
one.
I teach a class with two other people. There's three of us that teach this class at church. And the first year I did it, I think they were ready to kill me.
Oh,
Okay. I'm not kidding. I think they were
pause.
really, yeah, because
You're just too
when I did it, I had a PowerPoint, handouts, I
worksheets.
didn't even use notes for a lecture. It was all done. Okay. I was prepared to forward my slide deck if anybody wanted it. And it, it's just not that big a deal.
Yeah,
And
like
so,
lighten up,
but
Francis. Lighten.
but you have to learn to dial it back a little
Mm,
bit
mhm.
from what we are accustomed to doing,
Yeah.
so that you don't alienate the whole world with your know-it-allness,
Whoa, that's some hard truth. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah. And the other thing that you said that I wrote down that I love is you said, but something it's fun. Keep doing it as long as it's fun, enjoyable, and you're fit. You were talking about doing something and, as an avocation or as a hobby or something after retirement. I'm
Right.
thinking that that reminder is also something that works the other way. When we are in our jobs and it is no longer fun,
Mhm.
enjoyable, or we're no longer fit, we're no longer growing, then maybe that's also a little dashboard sign that maybe we're getting close to starting to think about a
Yeah.
transition.
What else is there? Yeah.
Yeah,
What's
yeah,
the plan?
yeah. What's the plan, man?
Yeah.
Always back to a plan. Where have you noticed, or from your colleagues here at UTMB or around the country, people who are just staying in the game, maybe for good reasons, because they want to, they love it, they're good at, they are having fun, they are enjoying it, they are fit, they're like still, uber productive, and it's good, or people who are staying in and you're thinking, geez, she should have gotten out a while ago, or when you see somebody who is up on a stage or on the field, whatever sports field, and you think, oh, they should have retired, should not, should, they're past their prime, the voice isn't sounded as good as it used to, the legs aren't as strong, the arms not as fast. Have you seen those experiences and reflected
Yeah.
on those? What is
Yeah.
that?
I mean,
What
I
is
think
that?
every one of us who's done this for a while has seen someone that you wish would have been receptive to an honest piece of input that kind of went like, you've really had a tremendous level of contribution here for, over a long period of time. And what I'm honestly seeing is that it's really hard for you now.
Mm.
And there's some things that probably are getting in the way. And I hate to see that mar in some way what you have done.
Oh, wow.
And I wonder if you're thinking about what your next steps are.
Oof. So honest, so authentic. And I'm almost kind of shaking with nerves, anticipating someone saying to you, no, Skip, I don't know who I am. I don't know
Yeah.
what I could possibly do if I'm not doing this.
If they were
Oh,
perfectly honest, a lot of people that just hang on, that's the problem. They only know one thing about themselves, and that is all of their worth and values tied up in what they do. And that's probably a consequence of the way things have been set up for many, many years, I think. But it's not unique to medicine. It's just more common, but it's certainly not unique. Um, I have friends that are engineers by trade who've done it for all their lives. It's real hard for them to move to it, particularly if they're involved in, the creative, inventive aspect of it. I don't think they ever stop doing that, but their worth is tied up in doing it successfully. So, and frankly, their living is tied up in it. So, they're very fearful of having something interfere with that, and you get that. But it's good to have a conversation with someone if you are able to do that. And I think you have to have some insight and or someone has to come to you to ask about that. I think if one of the great services you can provide to a colleague, a good friend, even if they're not in the same profession, is the openness to listen. And you may say at the end of the listening, do you want me to say something, or do you want me to just kind of let things vegetate for a little bit?
ooh, that's a good skill. Do you want me to just listen? Wow. Yes. Just holding space with someone and
Hmm.
letting them hear themselves think out loud and process. Very powerful. And Skip, I think you're also making an important point for folks who are listening to this podcast episode around the world who are in leadership positions, who can maybe start thinking about asking those curious questions of our department directors, division chiefs, division directors, faculty, just kind of putting that out there in terms of what's your plan? What are you thinking about in
Hmm.
2, 3, 5 years. And not only, how many RVUs you're generating, how many papers did you publish, are you get ready for promotion, all that kind of box checking stuff.
There has to be a personal aspect
Yeah.
of leadership
Yeah.
in administration.
Mhm.
We tie it up in objectives so thoroughly that sometimes we feel like we've done our job as an administrator if we can identify all the objective data that pertain to this individual or this division or whatever the case is, when in fact we have a pretty stunted look at who they are and what makes them function well and what leads to their success and how did they get there. And did we have a role in helping that? Do we
Yeah.
facilitate things in a way? Um, are we advocates for the people that work with us?
Right, right. And the I can imagine some leaders saying, "Well, I'm not a coach. I don't know how to do this. I'm not positioned. I have so many things, competing priorities. I don't know how to guide people in their next stages." And guess what? You don't have to be. You can simply ask curious questions that, as you
Mhm.
pointed out, Skip, encourage reflection. Encourage
Yep.
reflection. It's
Yep.
not a mandate, it's not a judgment, it's a something that leaves people with leaving the time with you, something to think about and mull over. And then you
Yep.
revisit that and you make it a safe space where we can talk about these things. You're a human
Think
being.
of the questions you wish people had asked you,
Yeah,
and then turn that table around a little bit.
right.
You won't go too wrong.
Yeah. I love it. I love your guidance of looking in the mirror. You'll be the boss of you. No one knows you better than you. And even if you don't know you, this is an opportunity to
Yep.
get to know that person in the mirror
Yeah, exactly.
for real. I love it. Dr. Skip Brown, this has been another great episode. So appreciate your wisdom and sharing with the Faculty Factory community. I hope you come back again soon.
Sure. Happy to.
Thanks for tuning in to the Faculty Factory podcast. We are a faculty development community sharing tools to build academic leaders in healthcare. Maybe you want to be interviewed on the podcast? Please visit facultyfactory.org/contact and send me a message there. The Faculty Factory podcast and website is sponsored by the Office of Faculty Affairs at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston, Texas.